Guys, Steve Morgan here for Tackle Junkie, or www.tacklejunkie.fish, and I'm here with Simon Goldsmith. And Simon is the resident reel-Daiwa-everything technical expert, because you're the guy that spends more time in the garage and I'm the guy that spends more time in the water.
Exactly. I play with the tackle off the water, you're on the water.
Yeah, you betcha. So we've had recently from Daiwa, we've had a few reels come in, especially after 2016. Yep. We did all the live shows at Daiwa released an avalanche of new product. So I've got three in the range, and what we thought we'd do today is talk about, if you go to your tackle shop, you're looking at reels anywhere between $100 and $1,000. It's like, what is the real practical, or what the quantity of difference between these reels? So the three that Daiwa sent us, we've got a $100 reel, which is the Sweetfire. We've given these away for Fishing Monthly before in our subscription packs. I've used a lot of them, the old red ones 10 years ago. They're quite a good reel. Don't feel as good in the hand maybe as the top end ones, but definitely get the job done. So the first one we've got is the Sweetfire 2B, 2-ball bearing. Next one we have is very recent release, probably the latest of the releases, and I've had this for a few months, is the Daiwa BG, the Black Gold. And Simon, this is a rebuild of an old reel.
BG's been around for a long time, and this is the new incarnation of it.
Yep, so again, a 2500 size reel there, the BG, that's around the $200 price point, the BG. And then of course we have the flagship, which is everyone's aspirational reel. Daiwa, they make the Exists, but this is the next level down from the Exists, is that Daiwa Certate. The 16 Certate looks great, lightest of the reels, feels great. We'll get into this one in due course.
All right.
So, and that's around the $600. So $100, $200, $600. Just as an interesting bit of background, I picked some rods out of the garage to fit these with, and initially when I set these up, both of these reels, the cheapest and the dearest, have got about 15-pound Sunline braid on them. Same amount of braid, same leaders, like use a heavy leader, a 6 to 8 pound leader on them. And we put them through some interesting duty cycles, these reels. Been to Foster at the ABT Bream event, doing a lot of rack fishing there. Went to Bass Megabucks at Somerset. So again, big fish, open water, the braid was quite suitable. I've done the Queensland Open with them, the Clarence and Gold Coast ABT. So I like to put a lot of time on these reels before we give an opinion on them. The last one we did was the Daiwa Zillion, the mag seal one.
Baitcaster,
Caught 50 threadies and dewies on that before we did, and managed not to break it. I'm pretty good at breaking things normally.
You are?
Incidentally, I did manage to drop this Certate before I spilled it up. Broke something in it, sent it back to Daiwa. They sorted it all out. That was my fault there. Sorry about that, Daiwa. But to me, it meant that if you do have a top-end reel, don't give your top-end reels to the kids to use. Because they probably don't take being dropped as well as, say, the $100 Sweetfire.
Well, like my son, he runs cheap reels like this, but I don't let him near my Certates or my Exist.
They're I'm different. I'll let my kids use them, but I expect them to break them at any stage. But I suppose, overall, if you want a reel that's going to get punished, don't drop the $600 on one, drop the $100 on one. So let's go back and we'll have a look at some of the actual specs and the builds of these reels. So for me, when I pick it up, I picked this Sweetfire up, the $100 reel, and it hasn't got the instant anti-reverse.
That's right.
And it hasn't got an anti-reverse switch underneath it, so I can't choose to wind backwards and forwards on that, and that could be cool for kids because they're going to be flicking switches. You don't want them to wind it backwards. But I've put this reel through some pretty serious duty cycles. So the other thing about this reel is the drag. Like, it obviously doesn't have the same drags as the dearer reels. And just tell us about the difference in the drags between the cheap and the dearer reels.
Okay, the Sweetfire, you're just dealing with the bog standard drag. You crank it up, whereas you get to the BG and you get to the Certate and you're getting into the new ATD. And the analogy that I use for a lot of people is it's a bit like ABS on a car. And when you hit the brakes, it eases you down. Same with the ATD. You don't go from nothing to everything, it eases you in and slowly applies it. So it's far more refined in these two than what we have in the Sweetfire.
This is only very few elements in this drag, and not the most complex material in there.
No.
So I noticed that in the field, this reel between basically free spool and full lock is about that much, about a quarter of a turn. So if I've got that, I've got virtually no drag to there, and I'm nearly locked up. That was pretty handy at Foster because when you're rack fishing, we'd be pitching a Z-Man grub into a oyster pole. You don't want that drag to go, so I actually found it pretty handy to go. And the corollary of that was up at the ABT Bass Megabucks at Somerset. You hook a big bass and you had to have that drag right.
You want that finesse adjustment.
To one click.
Yeah.
One click. So one click too little and the thing, you never get it in.
Mm-hmm.
One click too much and you're in danger of breaking your 6 pound leader.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose it's something you can work around,
yep.
but if you've got someone who maybe hasn't got a high skill level, they may end up breaking a few fish off on this one.
That's right.
This one here has the body material. This is a graphite body.
Graphite.
Whereas you move up, tell us the difference between because graphite, aluminium, Zion. What are the differences?
The three reels are all very similar. Essentially, it comes down to what they're made from and the level of features they have in it. So graphite body here, BG we step up to aluminium,
yep.
and then when we get to the Certate we're getting into Zion, which is their modern version of magnesium. So it's incredibly strong, very light, doesn't corrode.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Magnesium reels look like a bar of soap in the water.
Yes.
But Zion, and you can feel the difference. So the weight difference isn't massive between the two. The Certate comes in at 245 grams, the BG 265 grams.
Mm-hmm.
So only 20 grams difference between the two, but you can feel that in the hand.
Yep.
And I suppose that when you pick them up, the level of difference between the cheapest, the $100 and the $200 reel, that's a big gap. If you're going to sort them on performance, this feels sort of cheap. Mm-hmm. These two feel smooth.
They're a lot closer.
Yeah. They've got infinite anti-reverses. Yep. But then the difference between that, you can feel the difference. This is what you'd call buttery smooth.
Yes.
And this has been used for nearly 6 months now, and that still, there's very little resistance to the winding, even after a heavy duty cycle. The BG still has a little bit of startup inertia.
Yep.
And that's the difference. So there's probably, the $200 is probably 3 times as good as the $100,
yep.
and this is probably half as good again, the next one. So for me, if the drag's important, and if you're fishing light line for bream and light line stuff, the drag is important.
Yes.
I wouldn't go fishing light line on the sweet fly. Like something, 10 pounds about is probably light as you want. If you want to put 2 pound, 3 pound on that, you're going to lose a lot of baits.
Yep.
I spooled this one up because we did the Queensland Open with this reel. I've spooled this up with 6 pound fluorocarbon straight through for throwing cranker crabs at tight structure and getting them out. And it was very good for that. The drag system handled the 6 pound. When you fish maybe, 400 or 500 grams of drag, like a tight drag on that 6 pound, we basically lost no fish on this reel. So for me, you spend $200, you get a reel that can do everything.
Yep.
You spend $600, you get a reel that feels awesome, fishes awesome. But if you're on a budget, I'd definitely buy 3 of those rather than one of the Certates.
And I would agree, definitely. The thing you get in the Certate that you're not getting in the other two, of course, is MagSeal, and there's been a lot made about MagSeal, about the longevity that it gives reels. So over the years, that one will still be going at the end, whereas these two might have given up the ghost.
Exactly. And that is one of the differences. Look after one of these, it'll last you a long time. 2 ball bearings, 6 ball bearings and a roller bearing, 10 ball bearings. Tell us the difference between where the bearings are. Where are the 2 ball bearings in these guys?
2 ball bearings you've simply got here is you'll more than likely have one here in your line roller, and you'll have another one in here, and that's it. It's very rudimentary, and that's where your level of smoothness does not come from. The fact that you don't have those bearings. Whereas up here you are loaded. You get a MagSeal bearing in here. You've got multiple bearings in here on the main shaft and also on the side here,
and on the handle too,
and on the handle as well. So all those oscillation points, that's where that refinement and that smoothness comes from, and that's where all those bearings are.
Now, interestingly, on the water, again, I do a lot of the water testing for these. On the water, I've never taken much note of gear ratios. So when I'm doing up the table for the review and the write-up we're doing, I'm finding out that the Certate only has a 4.8 to 1 gear ratio. The BG has the fastest, 5.6 to 1, but this one is 5.3 to 1. And in real terms, the difference between the 2 reels I had up at Bass Megabucks, spool with the braid, is 72 to 80, so 8 centimetres of difference per wind of the handle. So it was quite a big difference. At Megabucks, I caught all of my good fish on the cheap reel, which was challenging to get them in with the drag, but it was. But I found that this, with my cadence of how I like to slow roll for those bass, that was the right ratio. And I'd never ever used ratio as a way to pick a reel before, not in a spin reel. And casters, yes, but not in the spin reel. So I did find out that that for bass fishing in that lake, in that situation, they liked a faster retrieve. So interestingly, this the BG has the fastest ratio. So it's 84 centimetres per time
per crank.
Per crank, 84 72. So
Yep.
that's actually quite a slow reel
Yeah,
to certate.
yeah, definitely.
So if you're a brim guy, especially using lighter lines, and that's brim, when you're cranking for brim, you definitely want a slow
Yeah.
retrieve. Whereas the BG may be a better reel for your bass guys.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
and they want that faster retrieve. We've had a big history doing a lot of stuff with Daiwa over the years, and I just thought this way would be an interesting way to, if you had $600 to spend,
How would you spend it?
to buy one of them,
Yep.
3 of them, or 6 of those.
I know what I'd do. It'd be multiples of those.
Exactly. So if you're sitting at home and do yourself a favour, go to the tackle shop. Rest assured that all of these Daiwa reels can catch the fish. You're going to need more skill to catch them on the cheap one than the top end one,
Yeah.
especially if you're using lighter lines.
Yep.
If you want to buy a reel for the kids and you don't want them to break it, buy the Sweet Fire.
That's what I do.
If you have $600 and the kids are spending all your other money and you want several outfits for
Yep.
for your $600, 3 of the BGs might be the way to go.
Yeah.
And if Dad's just going to shout himself one reel to be a Mickey Mouse reel that's going to fish well, be smooth,
This is the one.
Certate's the way to go.
Yeah.
The full write-up on this will be in the Fishing Monthly magazine, so and eventually on the website at fishingmonthly.com.au, and we'll also roll that on the www.tacklejunkie.fish website. Thanks very much, Simon, for coming and giving us
My
a bit
pleasure.
of an insight into why the differences between the reels. All you need to do at home now is find out how to free up the budget to get your hands on some of these nice Daiwas.
That's the hard part.
So Steve Morgan and Simon Goldsmith, signing off.